Harold was 72 when he made the biggest mistake of his life. He sold his home, packed up decades of memories, and moved into the spare room at his daughter's house, thinking it was the smart, family-first decision. But within 18 months, he had no savings, no privacy, and no way out. He wasn't mistreated. He wasn't unloved. But everything that made him independent, his space, his schedule, his sense of self, was slowly eroded. One compromise at a time. Until he was just a guest in someone else's life. This isn't just Harold's story. It's happening in thousands of households across the country right now. Seniors, often over 70, thinking, "I'll move in with my kids. We'll save money. I'll help with the grandkids. They'll take care of me if I need it." But here's what no one tells you. That well-meaning plan, it's a trap. Because once you're in their home, you've lost your leverage. You've blurred the lines between guest and burden. And slowly, you start disappearing. Your name's no longer on the lease. Your money's going to groceries or gifts for the kids. Your time isn't your own. It's wrapped around their schedule, their house rules, their lifestyle. And the worst part, you tell yourself it's fine. You don't want to cause trouble. You don't want to be in the way. So you shrink, quietly, until you don't even recognize the person in the mirror. This isn't just about emotions. It's a financial, legal, and psychological tightrope. And most seniors walk it blindfolded. The truth is, moving in with your children may seem like a lifeline. But without the right boundaries, legal protections, and exit plans, it can become a slow-motion disaster. And yet, no one warns you. Not your doctor. Not your lawyer. Not even your friends, because everyone assumes it's just the natural next step. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain. Because Harold's story could happen to anyone. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to avoid the most common, silent traps seniors fall into after moving in with their kids. For Harold, the emotional toll was heavy. But the financial damage, that's what left him stranded. He thought he was saving money. After all, no more mortgage. No rent. But within a year, his bank account had dropped below $2,000. So where did it all go? That's the trap most seniors never see coming. Because when you move in with family, the spending doesn't stop, it shifts. Instead of bills for your own home, your money slowly disappears into shared expenses. Groceries, school supplies for grandkids, gas for errands, a new water heater. And since you're not paying rent, you feel obligated to contribute. But there's no clear line between helping out and bleeding yourself dry. What's worse, you're no longer building equity. No assets. No investments. Just outgoing cash and zero control. Many seniors even gift large amounts of money thinking, it's for family. It'll come back around. But what if it doesn't? What if they remarry? Divorce? Go bankrupt? Suddenly, what you gave isn't just gone, it's tied up in someone else's crisis. And here's the kicker. Most seniors don't update their wills, legal documents, or power of attorney before moving in. They assume it won't matter. But when finances mix with family, boundaries blur, promises vanish, and in some cases, the courts get involved. According to the National Council on Aging, over 5 million older Americans experience some form of financial exploitation every year. And nearly 60% of the time, it comes from family members. Not because they're evil, but because the system is informal. No contracts. No financial agreements. Just assumptions. And assumptions can cost you everything. Harold's daughter never asked for his savings. But when her husband lost his job, they needed help. So Harold stepped up. Again. And again. Until he couldn't. Then the roles reversed. Now he needed help. And suddenly, things got tense. Money became a source of guilt. And support turned into obligation. That's the moment many seniors realize. When your finances are entangled with your child's household, you're no longer an elder. You're a liability. And unless you set hard limits before you move in, you may not realize the cost until it's too late to recover. When Harold first moved in, he felt like a gift to the family. He helped with the kids, cooked dinner, took the dog for walks. He felt useful. But gradually, that feeling changed. At first, it was subtle. A joke about him always being home. A sigh when he forgot to take the trash out. A closed door when he wanted to chat. The man who once ran a household now waited for permission to use the kitchen. He stopped inviting friends over. Stopped watching TV in the living room. He didn't want to be in the way. That's the emotional cost no one talks about. Not just the loss of space, but the loss of status. You're no longer the parent who guided the family. You become the dependent, the guest, the quiet background character in someone else's life. It's a psychological role reversal, and it happens faster than most realize. And here's the kicker. You feel guilty for noticing it. You tell yourself, they're doing me a favor. I should be grateful. I can't expect more. But gratitude shouldn't come at the cost of your dignity. According to a study published in the Journals of Gerontology, seniors who feel they've lost autonomy in family settings show significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety, and social withdrawal. And the damage isn't just internal. With blurred emotional boundaries, family members can unconsciously slip into control mode. Don't go out today, it's too cold. You already had coffee this morning. We'll let you know when dinner's ready. They mean well. But the result? You're infantilized, slowly stripped of decision-making. And without realizing it, love becomes control. Kindness becomes condescension. And your identity becomes invisible. In Harold's case, his daughter started referring to him as just Dad when explaining living arrangements. Not Harold. Not my father. Just Dad. The helper. The extra body in the house. The presence they adjusted to, not celebrated. That's when he knew something was wrong. He was alive, present, thoughtful. But he had become a shadow. And here's the most dangerous part. Once you've lost emotional boundaries, it's almost impossible to get them back without conflict. Every conversation turns into, "Are you saying we don't do enough for you? We're trying our best. You're too sensitive." It's not just miscommunication. It's misalignment. You still see yourself as independent, but they've already moved you into a new role. And unless you draw clear emotional lines from the start, you may find yourself erased by kindness. Slowly, quietly, permanently. Not all toxicity looks like shouting matches or slammed doors. Sometimes it sounds like, "After everything we do for you," or "You could at least be more appreciative." It starts subtly. A little passive aggression here, a guilt trip there. But over time, these small shifts become patterns. And those patterns become power structures. Harold noticed it when his medication started running low. He asked his daughter to pick up a refill. She said she forgot. twice, but she remembered to order takeout, book a haircut, refill her husband's beer fridge. That's when he realized his needs weren't urgent. They were optional, and the longer he stayed, the more it happened. Can you watch the kids again tonight? Don't go to the living room, we're having people over. Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of your bills. Sounds helpful, right? But beneath the surface, a dangerous cycle had begun. Support turned into surveillance. Love turned into leverage. According to the National Center on Elder Abuse, nearly 1 in 10 seniors experience abuse. And in 60% of cases, the abuser is a family member. And yet, most cases go unreported, not because the victim is afraid, but because they feel guilty. Guilty for speaking up. Guilty for being a burden. Guilty for needing help in the first place. And in many homes, this creates what psychologists call a dependency trap, where the senior feels emotionally or financially stuck. And the adult child, even unintentionally, uses the dependency to control them. Sometimes it's, "We need your social security check to cover rent." Other times, "If you don't like how we do things, maybe you should find somewhere else to live." But where can they go? Their home is gone. Their savings are depleted. Their freedom handed over in trust. In Harold's case, the breaking point came when he questioned how his monthly pension was being spent. His daughter snapped, "Do you think we want to take care of you? You think this is easy for us?" It wasn't said in hate. It was said in exhaustion, in resentment. And that's when he understood. The arrangement had shifted. He wasn't family anymore. He was a responsibility. A task on someone else's never-ending to-do list. And the worst part, he couldn't leave. Not without a plan. Not without money. Not without going somewhere that felt like his. That's how toxicity creeps in, not always with cruelty, but with control. And once that balance tips, it rarely goes back. Harold had finally made up his mind. He wanted out. But there was a problem. Where would he go? He'd sold his house, given up his car. His name wasn't on any lease, bank account, or insurance policy anymore. His life, his freedom, was tied to someone else's decisions. That's when the second shock hit him. He didn't have a plan. Not even a bad one. And he's not alone. According to the U.S. Administration on Aging, nearly 40% of seniors over 70 who live with family have no legal, financial, or exit strategy in place. That means if things go sideways, emotionally, financially, or medically, they have nowhere to go and no way to leave. Why? Because nobody talks about this. No one thinks they'll need a way out of their own child's home. But life changes fast. Divorce, illness, layoffs. Add just one unexpected event. And suddenly, what felt like family starts to feel like a prison. In many cases, seniors don't even have access to their own documents anymore. Titles, pensions, health insurance, estate paperwork. It's all being taken care of by someone else. And while that might seem like convenience, it's actually powerlessness dressed as help. In Harold's case, he realized he didn't even have his own debit card. He had merged his finances with the household to make things easier. Except now, every decision went through his daughter. He wanted to call a lawyer, but he didn't know who. He wanted to look for senior housing, but he didn't have transportation. He thought about asking an old friend for help, but he hadn't spoken to them in over a year. Too ashamed, too tired. And that's the real epidemic no one sees. Seniors trapped by love, stuck in homes that no longer feel like home, with no plan, no savings, and no one to turn to. And when they finally reach out, it's often to a social worker, a legal aid office, or in worst cases, a crisis center. But what if that could be avoided? What if the moment you considered moving in with your kids, you also built a plan B, a backup, a safety net, so you could leave if things ever turned, so you never had to beg to reclaim your life? Because freedom at 70 is just as sacred as it was at 30, and having an exit plan isn't disloyal, it's wise. If you're over 70 and thinking of moving in with your kids, stop. Don't pack a bag. Don't sell your house. Don't even agree to the conversation until you've done these 7 things. These are the rules Harold wished he had followed. The rules that could have saved him from losing everything. Rule number 1, always keep your own money. Your savings are not family money. Don't merge accounts. Don't hand over your pension to help out. Keep your financial independence. Because the moment you lose control of your bank account, you lose control of your future. Rule 2, have a legally binding agreement. Living with family isn't just emotional, it's contractual. You need it in writing. Will you pay rent? How long are you staying? Who covers what expenses? What happens if the living situation changes? Get a lawyer. Not because you don't trust them, but because you trust yourself to be prepared. Rule 3, never sell your home without a backup plan. Downsizing is fine. Selling for convenience is not. If you must sell, keep a portion of that money in a separate emergency fund. Your house was your last real asset. Don't trade it for a spare bedroom unless you have a safety net. Rule 4, define your role in the household. Are you a guest? A co-parent? A live-in babysitter? Don't let your role evolve over time, because it always evolves into doing more, expecting less. Define your responsibilities in advance and stick to them. Rule 5, set emotional boundaries early. You're not a burden. You're not a free nanny. And you're not required to smile through discomfort. Speak up. Say no. Emotional clarity now prevents resentment later. Rule 6, keep external connections alive. Don't isolate. Stay in touch with friends, support groups, former neighbors. Join community centers, senior networks, even Facebook groups. Because the more dependent you are on one household, the less power you have. Rule 7, always have an exit plan. It doesn't mean you expect the worst. It means you're ready for anything. Know where you'd go. Have emergency savings. Keep documents, transportation, and contacts accessible. Freedom is knowing you can leave and land on your feet. These aren't selfish rules. They're survival rules. Because love without boundaries can break you. And family without structure can cost you everything. Don't gamble with your final chapter. Write it wisely. 2 years after moving in with his daughter, Harold left. He didn't announce it. He didn't make a scene. One quiet morning, he packed a single bag, called an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years, and started over. Was it easy? No. Was it clean? Not at all. But it was necessary. He moved into a small rental apartment funded by what little he had left, joined a local senior center, bought a used car, reconnected with friends, found part-time work helping other seniors avoid the very mistake that almost broke him. And you know what he said? I'd rather eat soup alone in peace than steak in a house where I feel invisible. Harold's story is not a tragedy. It's a wake-up call because every day, thousands of seniors unknowingly give up everything. Not to strangers, not to scammers, but to the very people they trust most. Their own families. Not out of malice, but out of assumption. Out of love without planning. Out of fear of loneliness. And yet, the loneliest feeling in the world is being surrounded by people and still feeling like you don't belong. So before you make that move, before you give up your keys, your cash, your comfort zone, ask yourself one final question. If everything went wrong, could I leave? Not emotionally. Not someday. Today. Could you walk out the door with your dignity, your money, your documents, and your self-respect intact? If the answer is no, you're not ready. Don't wait until you're desperate to build an exit plan. Do it now. Quietly. Intentionally. Strategically. Because your freedom in the final chapter of life is not just a privilege. It's a right. And if Harold could start again with one bag and a borrowed ride, so can you. Just don't wait until you have to. Seniors, listen up. What if your refrigerator, the very heart of your kitchen, is secretly harming you? New studies reveal that refrigerating certain everyday foods could be sabotaging your health, causing nutrient loss, increasing food poisoning risks, and even weakening your immune system. In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the 9 foods that you should never chill if you want to stay vibrant and healthy. Stay with us. This may change the way you stock your pantry forever. Most people don't think twice about tossing raw potatoes into the fridge. But did you know this simple habit could be turning your potatoes into a toxic threat? You see, raw potatoes are loaded with starch, a natural carbohydrate. But when you refrigerate them, especially below 45 degrees Fahrenheit 7 degrees Celsius, that starch undergoes a process called cold-induced sweetening. This transforms the starch into sugars. While that might not sound like a big deal, here's where it gets dangerous. When those sugary potatoes are later cooked, particularly at high temperatures like frying or roasting, they can produce a compound called acrylamide. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and studies published by the European Food Safety Authority, acrylamide is a potential carcinogen. Long-term exposure in animals has been linked to cancer, and while the evidence in humans is still being studied, health authorities around the world recommend limiting it wherever possible, especially for vulnerable populations like seniors. And it doesn't stop there. Refrigerating potatoes doesn't just affect their safety, it affects their quality. Cold storage can make them grainy, weirdly sweet, and even strip them of essential nutrients like vitamin C, which is already sensitive to light and temperature. For seniors, losing out on this vital antioxidant, essential for immunity and tissue repair, can be a hidden setback in maintaining health. So, what should you do instead? Store your raw potatoes in a cool, dark, and dry place, like a pantry, kitchen drawer, or paper bag in a cupboard. Make sure there's air circulation and avoid plastic bags, which trap moisture and speed up rot. Also, keep potatoes away from onions. They release ethylene gas that causes nearby veggies to spoil faster. Here's a quick test. If your potatoes are sprouting, turning green, or have a bitter taste, it's time to toss them. Those are signs of solanine, a natural toxin that increases with poor storage and can cause nausea, headaches, and even neurological issues in large amounts. Remember, potatoes may look innocent, but treating them wrong can bring unintended harm. It's a simple change that could significantly lower your exposure to toxic compounds and preserve the nutritional quality of one of your most common foods. Stay with us, because next, we're exposing a pantry staple that's probably sitting in your fridge right now, and it's growing mold faster than you think. You've probably done it before, bought a loaf of bread, tossed it in the fridge, and thought, perfect, this will last longer. But here's the cold, moldy truth. Refrigerating your bread might actually be ruining it faster, especially if you're over 60 and relying on bread for daily energy and fiber. Let's unpack this. When bread is exposed to the cold, a chemical process called retrogradation kicks in. This process causes the starch molecules in the bread to crystallize, leading to a rapid loss of moisture. The result: bread that becomes dry, tough, and stale in just a day or two, ironically, faster than if you'd just left it at room temperature. But that's not even the worst part. When cold, stale bread is brought back to room temperature, say, to make a sandwich or toast, it becomes a prime breeding ground for mold. And mold spores love to grow in humid, fluctuating environments, exactly like your kitchen on a busy morning. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, consuming moldy bread can cause allergic reactions, respiratory issues, and digestive discomfort, particularly in older adults with weakened immune systems. Think about it, you're trying to be practical, maybe stretching your grocery runs by a few days. But that loaf sitting in the back of your fridge, it might be exposing you to invisible fungal threats that can do more harm than you realize. So what's the smart move? Store your bread at room temperature in a sealed container or bread box for 3 to 4 days. This keeps it fresh without speeding up staling. For longer storage, here's the real trick: slice and freeze your bread. When you need it, just pop a slice in the toaster. Freezing halts the retrogradation process and dramatically slows mold growth, preserving the taste and texture. And here's a tip many overlook: avoid storing bread in plastic bags on the counter, especially in warm weather. That moisture buildup inside the bag, it's a 5-star hotel for mold spores. Remember, seniors need reliable sources of energy and fiber, and bread, when stored properly, is still a staple worth keeping. Just store it right. Because moldy bread isn't just gross, it's potentially harmful to your health. Coming up next, a common kitchen essential that looks perfectly fine in the fridge, but is silently spoiling your fruit, your butter, and your immune system. They're bold, aromatic, and essential in everything from soups to stir-fries. But storing whole onions in the fridge, that's a mistake, especially if you're over 60 and trying to avoid unnecessary immune stress and food waste. Here's why. Whole onions thrive in dry, ventilated spaces. When you place them in the fridge, the cold, moist air begins to break down their protective outer layers. This leads to softened flesh, faster spoilage, and, worst of all, mold growth. In fact, the moisture accelerates bacterial activity and increases the chance of developing fuzzy white or green mold that might not be visible until it's already spread. But there's another hidden danger: cross-contamination. Onions don't just absorb moisture. They absorb and release odors. When you refrigerate them next to fruit, butter, or bread, they can contaminate your entire fridge with a sharp, lingering smell and potentially ruin the taste of other foods. Ever had your butter taste strangely like onions? Now you know why. And if you think sliced onions in containers are safe, think again. A cut onion begins oxidizing almost immediately. Within 24 to 48 hours, even in a sealed container, it can start harboring bacteria. For seniors with a naturally declining immune response, that means a higher risk of digestive discomfort or infections. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, confirms improper onion storage increases the risk of foodborne illness, especially when onions are reused or left too long in damp environments. So how do you store onions correctly? For whole onions, use a mesh bag, paper sack, or basket in a dry, well-ventilated pantry. Avoid plastic bags, they trap moisture. Keep them far from potatoes. Potatoes release moisture and gas that speed up onion spoilage. Only cut what you need. If you must store sliced onion, place it in an airtight glass container and use it within 1 to 2 days. It's the little things that add up over time. One soggy onion might not seem like a threat, but for seniors managing health, immunity, and meal planning, proper storage is key to making each ingredient count. And speaking of misunderstood produce, our next item is one of the most common refrigerator victims, and it's losing all its flavor in the cold. If you've ever taken a bite of a cold tomato and wondered why it tastes like nothing, you're not imagining it. Refrigerating tomatoes doesn't just dull their flavor, it kills it. Here's the science behind it. Tomatoes are tropical fruits, biologically designed to ripen in warm, ambient temperatures. When you store them in the fridge, typically below 55 degrees Fahrenheit 13 degrees Celsius, you interrupt their natural ripening process. This cold shock halts the production of lycopene, the powerful antioxidant responsible for giving tomatoes their vibrant red color and robust flavor. But the damage doesn't stop at taste. A 2016 study from the University of Florida found that refrigerating tomatoes deactivates genes responsible for aroma production. These are the very genes that give tomatoes their fresh, garden-like scent and rich, sweet tart flavor. In other words, cold storage strips tomatoes of their identity, both in taste and in nutritional value. For seniors, this is especially concerning. Tomatoes are packed with vitamin C, potassium, and lycopene, all vital for heart health, immune support, and cellular repair. But when kept cold, tomatoes lose up to 65% of their vitamin C in just a few days. That's a critical loss, considering seniors are already more prone to vitamin C deficiency, which can weaken immunity and delay wound healing. And let's not forget texture. Cold temperatures cause the cell walls inside tomatoes to break down, making them mealy, watery, and mushy. Ever tried slicing a refrigerated tomato and ended up with a soggy mess? That's not a kitchen accident, that's a science fail. So, what should you do instead? Store your tomatoes stem side down at room temperature, ideally in a shaded spot on your kitchen counter. This prevents air from seeping into the stem scar, helping retain moisture and flavor. If a tomato is overripe and you can't use it immediately, sure, pop it into the fridge briefly, but let it come back to room temp before eating to help restore some of the lost flavor. Here's a smart move: overripe tomatoes. Use them in sauces, soups, or stews where texture doesn't matter but flavor still shines. Garlic has been hailed for centuries as one of the most powerful natural medicines. It fights infections, lowers blood pressure, boosts immunity, and supports heart health, especially vital for older adults. But storing garlic in the fridge. That's how you take this ancient healer and strip it of its magic. Let's break it down. Whole garlic bulbs are living organisms. When refrigerated, they experience a sudden jolt in humidity and temperature, which triggers premature sprouting. The result? Those familiar green shoots that pop out of the cloves, a clear sign the garlic is past its prime. And sprouted garlic? It tastes bitter, loses potency, and begins to break down its most beneficial compound, allicin. Allicin is garlic's secret weapon, a sulfur compound that forms when you crush or chop fresh cloves. It's responsible for most of garlic's powerful health benefits, including immune system activation, antibacterial and antiviral effects, cholesterol reduction, and improved blood circulation. But allicin is fragile. According to a study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, cold temperatures significantly reduce allicin's formation. That means the garlic you're storing in the fridge isn't just sprouting, it's losing its ability to protect your heart, your immune system, and your long-term health. Even worse, if you've ever chopped garlic and mixed it with oil to save it for later, there's a hidden danger lurking. Improperly stored garlic and oil, especially when refrigerated or kept at room temp too long, can become a breeding ground for Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that causes botulism. This rare but deadly illness affects the nervous system, and seniors are especially vulnerable due to reduced resistance. Here's what to do instead. Store whole garlic bulbs in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place, like a wire basket or mesh bag in your pantry. Avoid plastic bags, which trap moisture and lead to rot. Once garlic is chopped, use it immediately for maximum health benefit. Want to preserve minced garlic safely? Store it in vinegar or lemon juice and refrigerate short-term. These acidic environments help inhibit harmful bacteria. In the world of senior health, garlic is a champion. But even champions need the right environment to thrive. Treat garlic like the medicine it is, store it with care, and let your meals become your daily dose of wellness. Up next, a drink that many seniors rely on for comfort and energy, but storing it in the fridge. That's how you lose the very thing that makes it special. For many seniors, that morning cup of coffee is more than just a ritual, it's a lifeline. It provides warmth, clarity, and a comforting sense of routine. But here's something most people don't know. Storing your coffee in the fridge is slowly destroying its taste, aroma, and health benefits. Why? Because coffee is a hygroscopic substance, which means it absorbs moisture and odors from its environment like a sponge. When you store ground coffee or whole beans in your refrigerator, they don't just chill, they soak up the smells of nearby foods. Leftovers, onions, even butter. Your next brew. It could taste like yesterday's dinner. But that's just the start. Moisture is the silent killer of coffee. When condensation forms, which it inevitably does in and out of the fridge, it begins to break down the delicate oils inside the coffee bean. These oils are where most of coffee's flavor and health benefits reside. And once they degrade, you're left with a bitter, flat, lifeless cup that's lost its edge. From a nutritional standpoint, coffee is a rich source of antioxidants, particularly chlorogenic acid, which research has shown can help lower blood pressure, support cognitive health, improve glucose metabolism, and protect against age-related inflammation. But the moment those beans or grounds are exposed to damp, cold air, those antioxidants begin to deteriorate. A 2020 study published in Food Research International confirmed that exposure to humidity and temperature shifts significantly reduces antioxidant levels in both roasted and ground coffee. Now think about that for a second. You're relying on coffee for clarity, energy, and even protection against diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. But every time you open that fridge and reach for the coffee jar, you're unknowingly making it weaker, both in flavor and in function. So what's the best way to store coffee? Keep your coffee in an airtight, opaque container. Light and air are enemies of freshness. Store it in a cool, dry pantry, not too hot, not too cold. If you buy in bulk, freeze small portions in vacuum-sealed bags to preserve freshness. Only thaw what you'll use in the next week. And whatever you do, never put an open bag or loose coffee in the fridge or freezer without protection. The constant exposure to cold, air, and moisture is a flavor assassin. Next up, a sweet golden liquid that never needed refrigeration in the first place, but chilling it could ruin its legendary health benefits. Here's a surprising fact. Honey is the only food in the world that never spoils naturally. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs, still perfectly edible after thousands of years. That's not magic, that's science. So why are so many people refrigerating it? When you store honey in the fridge, you're going against its natural chemistry. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize, turning that smooth, golden liquid into a gritty, hard-to-spread mess. And once it crystallizes, many people mistakenly assume it's spoiled and throw it away. But it's not spoiled, it's just mishandled. Crystallization doesn't just affect texture, it impacts flavor and nutrient absorption too. According to the National Honey Board, refrigeration accelerates the formation of sugar crystals, which separate from the liquid and trap moisture. That moisture can then promote fermentation, especially if the honey wasn't sealed tightly. Fermented honey has a sour taste, can bubble, and lose many of its antimicrobial properties, the very reason it's considered a natural healer. Let's talk benefits for a moment, especially for seniors. Raw honey contains natural enzymes that support digestion, antibacterial and antifungal compounds that protect against infections, antioxidants like flavonoids and phenolic acids that reduce inflammation, and natural sugars that offer gentle energy without harsh spikes. But many of these nutrients are sensitive to light, heat, and moisture fluctuations. Storing honey in the fridge introduces all three, putting your golden elixir at risk of nutrient loss and flavor degradation. Instead, here's what you should do. Keep honey in a tightly sealed glass jar or food-safe plastic container. Store it in a dark, dry cabinet or pantry, away from direct sunlight or your stove. If it crystallizes, don't panic. Just warm the jar gently in a bowl of warm, not boiling, water until the crystals dissolve. A quick warning, Never microwave honey, as it destroys enzymes and can lead to uneven heating that spoils the texture permanently. In short, honey is already nature's perfect food. It doesn't need preserving, it just needs respect. When stored right, it can last for years and keep delivering health benefits with every golden spoonful. Coming up next, a fruit known for its brain-boosting benefits, but one that turns bitter, black, and nutrient-poor when it hits the chill zone. Bananas are often seen as the ultimate health snack, quick, affordable, and rich in potassium. For seniors, they're especially valuable, easy to chew, naturally sweet, and packed with nutrients that support heart and brain health. But if you're storing them in the fridge, you're doing them a major disservice and possibly losing all the goodness they're meant to deliver. Here's why. Bananas are tropical fruits, meaning they're naturally adapted to grow and ripen in warm climates. When exposed to temperatures below 58 degrees Fahrenheit 14 degrees Celsius, they undergo chilling injury, a condition that disrupts the ripening process at a cellular level. Once chilled, the cell walls begin to break down, and the enzymes responsible for producing sweetness and aroma become inactive. The result: a banana that's dull in taste, mushy in texture, and visibly unappealing with a blackened peel. But it's not just about looks. Chilled bananas also lose their nutritional punch. According to research from the International Journal of Food Science, refrigeration can lead to a significant drop in antioxidant activity, especially levels of dopamine, a crucial brain chemical involved in memory, motivation, and mood regulation. That's a big loss for older adults, many of whom already face natural declines in cognitive function. Let's talk benefits for a second. A properly ripened banana is a powerhouse of nutrients, including potassium, which helps control blood pressure and support heart health. Vitamin B6, vital for brain development and nervous system regulation. Magnesium, essential for bone strength and muscle function. Dopamine and serotonin precursors, which support emotional well-being. Now imagine throwing all of that away with one wrong move, putting your bananas in the fridge before they're ripe. So what should you do? Store unripe bananas at room temperature, away from sunlight and heat. Once they're fully ripe and starting to spot, you can refrigerate them briefly to slow down further ripening, but understand, the peel will blacken, even if the inside remains mostly fine. If your bananas are ripening too fast, peel and freeze them. Frozen bananas are perfect for smoothies, banana bread, or even a healthy ice cream alternative when blended. In essence, bananas are brain and heart food for seniors, but only when handled right. Keep them warm, treat them gently, and you'll enjoy all the natural sweetness and nourishment they're meant to offer. And now we come to the final, and perhaps most surprising, item on our list. A Mediterranean staple celebrated for heart health that becomes harmful when you cool it down. Olive oil is often hailed as liquid gold, and for good reason. It's rich in monounsaturated fats, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds that support heart health, brain function, and longevity, all critical pillars for seniors. But storing this golden elixir in the fridge, that's a mistake that could undo its most powerful benefits. Let's break it down. When olive oil is exposed to cold temperatures, like those inside your refrigerator, it begins to solidify and cloud. This is a natural reaction due to the fat content, but it's also a red flag. Repeatedly moving olive oil from cold to room temperature creates condensation inside the bottle, introducing moisture, the one thing olive oil can't tolerate. Moisture inside the bottle leads to oxidation, and oxidation leads to the creation of free radicals, unstable molecules that can trigger inflammation and cell damage. That's exactly the opposite of what olive oil is supposed to do. A study published in the journal Food Chemistry confirms that exposure to fluctuating temperatures accelerates the degradation of olive oil's polyphenol, the very compounds responsible for its disease-fighting powers. So in simple terms, cold plus air plus light equals damaged oil. What does this mean for you? If you're using olive oil to lower blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, or protect against cognitive decline, which many seniors do, then how you store it directly affects how well it works. And spoiled olive oil doesn't just lose potency, it can start to taste bitter or rancid, making your healthy meals less enjoyable and possibly harmful if consumed in excess. Here's how to store olive oil the right way. Keep it in a cool, dark cupboard, away from your stove or any heat source. Use dark glass bottles or metal tins, they protect against light exposure. Avoid plastic containers as chemicals can leach into the oil over time. Buy in quantities you can use within 6 to 12 months of opening. Always close the lid tightly to prevent oxygen from sneaking in. For seniors looking to protect their heart, brain, and joints, olive oil is an essential ally. But only if you treat it like the precious substance it is. Store it right, and it will reward you with flavor, longevity, and vitality in every drop. Now that you've opened the door to these 9 kitchen truths, take one last look inside your fridge tonight. Is your honey crystallized on the top shelf? Are your potatoes buried in the veggie drawer, slowly sweetening into something harmful? Are your onions quietly contaminating everything nearby? These might seem like small, harmless habits. But for seniors, small changes stack up to big outcomes: more energy, fewer infections, sharper memory, and meals that actually fuel your health instead of draining it. The good news: you don't need a complete kitchen overhaul. Just awareness. Just smarter choices. Because when it comes to aging well, the battle isn't always in the doctor's office, it's in the pantry. And here's the real twist: these aren't the only foods we're mishandling. In fact, there are 5 other everyday items that most seniors misuse, and one of them might be your favorite breakfast staple. But we'll talk about that in the next video.